Indian aviation sector is buzzing again. After a volatile last few years, the sector is looking to turn a corner on the back of record plane orders and a growing aviation market, tipped for exponential growth in the next decade. Newsline Live is tracking all the developments in the aviation space. My colleague Shomolo caught up with Rajiv Bansal, Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, to know what the outlook is and how the sector is placed to tackle operational headwinds. Listen in.
We are at the CAPA India Aviation Summit 2023, where top leaders from the global aviation space have converged to deliberate and speak about issues that are affecting the sector in a post-pandemic world. Earlier in the day, we had Mr. Rajiv Bansal, Secretary in the Civil Aviation Ministry, speak about the sector's prospects in the country and what are the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Only good times lie ahead for us, because the demand is so much that in our sector, multiple carriers, both low cost as well as full service carriers, can exist and will exist. So yesterday you had CASA CEO also saying that they plan to launch international operations by, I think, October or so this year. So an airline which was born during COVID times, and within 1 year they have inducted 20 aircraft and are ready to fly internationally. So I would say that we comfortably, the Indian aviation landscape comfortably can have 7 to 8 carriers, which is the position as of now.
But do you see, I mean, there's not much that the government can do about the operating model, and if you can use Richard Branson's quote. But how do you think the government can help in other ways to ensure that the stakeholders can at least survive, if not thrive?
No, why do you say the government cannot do anything? The government can do and is doing. We've been taking up with all the states to lower the VAT on ATF. VAT is a very important cost component for airline carriers. And happy to report that most of the states in the country, barring 4, have reduced the VAT. Recently, Maharashtra reduced the VAT. Just before that, Rajasthan had reduced the VAT rate on ATF. So our persuasion has helped them to reduce it. Creating infrastructure, airport infrastructure itself is something that the government is doing, whether through airport authority or through private, through the PPP model. That itself provides support to the air carriers to grow.
And so, final question: the railway tickets for Rajdhani is way expensive than an air ticket right now. Do you think the airlines have been able to wean away that set of passengers, considering that the Udan scheme is also being given thrust by the government?
Yes, definitely. So actually, you know, the what comes out in media often and is reported is about the highest fare bracket. Tickets are sold in something like 16 fare buckets. And I would feel that the lower couple of fare buckets on any kind of a Delhi Mumbai or a Delhi Bangalore sector are comparable to the AC fares of train. So it's only in the higher fare buckets where they may be higher.
We continue to track that very important story. My colleague Shomala is here with me in the newsroom. Shomala, I want to understand from you the big takeaways from that big conference/meeting that you were a part of today.
Hi Shweta, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, the messaging from the Civil Aviation Secretary is the same as that we've been hearing from the ministers and the top officials of Air India, is that growth is the only way forward, and they are aggressively doubling down on the infrastructure, and they now, under the Udan scheme also, with the government also placing its thrust on that, they want to cater to a new section of passengers who have not been air travelers, significant air travelers. They want to ensure that the Aam Aadmi also shuns railway and takes to the skies, and it is good for the society and in general for the sector, which has been under the cosh for the past few decades, if I may say so.
Okay. SS Paneso, who is an aviation expert, is also joining us at this point in time. So thanks very much for speaking to us. Your outlook on the aviation sector: we are looking at a sector that is fast expanding, but also is reporting consolidated net losses up to $1 billion.
Let me tell you, I must appreciate the way aviation is expanding in India, and we are going to be one of the largest country with having aviation sector in India. But unfortunately, which I have seen in the past, our regulatory body and the other thing, they are not expert to cope up with the aviation. Air India has ordered 470 aircraft. I must know they must have planned how to train pilots, 470 pilots to train on these aircraft. Number one. Number two, the regulatory body, not a single person is professional in investigation of incident, accident, and making rules for safe aviation in India. We have a Director General of Safe Aircraft Accident Investigation. She has never seen an aircraft. She is not an aircraft. No, what investigation they will do it? You see, we need experts in aviation who can improve the standard of aviation. I took up the matter with Ministry of Communication. They take pilots exam for radio telephony, and they never seen the aircraft. They never operated RT. They give me in writing. We have not experienced. This is the way they're going to check the pilots. See, the safety is the prime importance in aviation. When you increase the aircraft flying is congested, the safety is the paramount important, which I'm sure the government should take interest in improving the flight safety standard and taking into cognizance the past incidents and all that, and improve the things going on in the regulatory body. Examination of pilots, engineers, they have to have an experts. We have experts in India, but I don't know why the system is not being changed till today. You see, today the safety standard is not up to the world market. We have to improve on that and give a confidence to the traveling people that our airline is the safest airline. Now, Air India, they have got professionals and they had ordered 470 aircraft. They must have planned their training and all that because you can't produce a pilot in an incubator. He requires a training. It gives a lot of period before he is trained as a captain or a co-pilot. So we have to work on those lines immediately because the way aviation is expanding, and you see, we are fulfilling the image of our Prime Minister, where he said Chappal Wala will also travel. But look at the fares. The fares are touching the sky. Why fares are being regulated to a certain point where the airline also makes a profit? Mm-hmm. The airline fares are not being, I know in Indian Airlines, the fares were controlled by the government. They could not even charge 1 rupee than decided by the government and the airline. But today they can charge any money. Now, where are the Chappalwalas going to fly that airline? It's a good thing that we are opening aviation sector, and it's a big credit to our country that we are connecting the world, and all the big cities of the world are connected by India. In COVID period, we handled our minister handled very well the traveling of the COVID passenger from India to other country and other countries to our country. See, you have to have a planning. But in my opinion, the safety is the paramount importance, which the Ministry of Civil Aviation, regulatory body, and all the airlines have to get together and improve the standard of safety and bring the confidence. Because recent past crashes and all that, they were absolutely, very sad incident. And nothing has been learned out of this incident. And the people who have investigated those incidents, they have never any experience of investigation. They formed a board of 7 people with Honorable Minister of Civil Aviation, DGCA, and former Chief of Air Force. They have never flown any high-tech aircraft, and they gave implementation of the aircraft. Our former Chief of, I won't hesitate to give his comment, he said today the bureaucrats are only looking after the minister's health and all that. They are not concerned about their department.
Okay.
But in my opinion, I only pray they rise to the occasion, and safety is an important. One person has commented, if you think safety is expensive, try an accident. You will come to know which is expensive.
Okay. Mr. Panesar, I'll come to you in just a bit. I want to come to you, Rakesh, at this point in time. What do you make of the challenges highlighted by Mr. Panesar here?
No, I think Mr. Panesar has spoken about some ground realities which are absolutely true. At one level, we have a huge potential for this particular sector. It is employment intensive, it is technology intensive, it is economic growth intensive, but there is a huge lag in terms of basic business to consumer orientations that Captain Panesar mentioned. The challenge is that how do we bring about a betterment in the overall ecosystem? I want to take you back to I'm playing the devil's advocate more than Mr. Panesar. If you look at Indian private sector aviation, it's been a a graveyard of reputations. We have lost so many airline companies. I'm not talking about lost aircraft. We lost so many, right from the era when we announced the open sky policy, which led to the induction of the first private airline called East West Airlines, till the time we have today, 3 or 4 players. It's been a story of airlines going bust. And we today are also, as you rightly mentioned, $100 billion plus losses. So if we don't have a healthy airline sector, which it means healthy airline companies, barring Air India and Indian Airlines, which were run by the government so far, now they are in hands of private sector in Tatas, who do you expect to invest in the core infrastructure? So that's the key point. And today, again, unfortunately, we are at a situation where we have just 2 major airlines. We have Tatas now doubling up as with this Vistara, Air India, Air Asia, Air India Express, so a omnibus big entity, and IndiGo. And then SpiceJet is bleeding, and Aksara hasn't taken off, Jet Air hasn't taken off. So a market which is projected to be the 5th largest by the end of the decade has just about 3 players.
Okay.
2 players to be precise. So that graveyard syndrome, we have not been able to come out of that, and I'm worried until we allow the private sector to be on its own feet. For that, it's not. We need to create a conducive environment, which would always put the onus of safety training on the companies which run these airlines. That's one. Second is that I think, from the government's perspective, whether it's keen and this Hawaii Chappal thing is a very noble thought. It has to be matched by action on the ground. The problem with the policy framework is that we are doing catching up rather than being ahead of the curve. If we know that India is destined to be one of the largest markets, why are we not planning ahead of the curve rather than just catching up? We have now, after such a long delay, coming up with 2 new airports in Bombay and in near UP, Agra. So I think in that sense, what is happening is that we need to plan ahead with the government and all other stakeholders coming into the fray.
Okay, plan ahead. That's the big message coming in at this point in time. Captain Pane sir, Rakesh, thanks very much for joining us with all those details.